For the first time in more than 5.5 years, we finally tonight have a few new answers to a question that has loomed over Indiana and over the town of Delphi. Who killed Abby Williams and Libby Gervais?
From the end of the bridge to, you got to go through. Now, I believe that the bodies were found about
Movement born from a family's grief and determination. In April of 2020, Army soldier Vanessa Guillen went missing while stationed at one of the largest military installations.
That little music in the background, it goes, "Don't be suspicious, don't be suspicious."
Right.
Knew about it or was there. He's as guilty as the person who committed it.
Chilling details in the arrest of a suspected serial killer caught before he could strike again.
Him, they dropped the ball, man. Like they said, he went AWOL, and that he was a deserter, and nobody went to look for him.
Today is not a day to celebrate, but the arrest of Richard M. Allen of Delphi on 2 counts of murder.
Like I said, we're going back. We were asked last time to kind of talk about the food, the grub truck video, and kind of give our perspective of it. The press release from the police department, it indicated that they're still trying to put pieces together from that night. Does that worry you at any point or at any bit that they're still trying to put those pieces together?
It's been over 5 weeks since little Kaylee Anthony vanished. Her mother, Casey, has been arrested for lying to police. She's being held without bail.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to The Drunken Turkey Show, your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
Everybody, welcome back to The Drunk Turkey Show. I'm your host, Daniel J. Alongside with me is Big Blue. Big Blue, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Sorry, you guys are running late because I took a late nap.
I had to call him to get this boy up. Are you drinking tonight, man?
Yeah,
What's going on? What are you having tonight? What do you have?
So I got a little bit of Slane, a little bit of whiskey.
Ooh.
And then I got a little bit of some Mickey D soda. So I'm mixing it up. And I got a beer in the fridge cooling down. So
Nice. Don't get too crazy, man. Don't get too crazy. We're trying to keep it PG to PG-13.
Should I drink this one? I got
just
one
when I say that.
I got another one in the cabinet. I have to go get my peach then. I have a peach one.
Welcome to the show, Ricky. Welcome to the show.
I felt a little light, so a little bit I'll go get my other one.
Nice. Welcome, everybody. Thank all of you guys in here in the live chat. If you guys do us a favor and hit that like button, we'd appreciate it. I already looked on. We haven't even said anything or done anything. And as soon as the show hit live, we got limited. Man, YouTube's attacking us for some reason. That's crazy, man. So in order to get the word out, guys, we'd appreciate it if you guys just hit that like button. That'll help the algorithm go out because apparently we're already getting limited on our visualization. But I'm going to be drinking tonight too, man. It's been a while since I've had an adult beverage. Oh, man. There it is. Can you see it?
Nice.
It's a good old Budweiser. I'll get a little crazy tonight, man. We got a lot of news to talk about. First thing we're going to be covering briefly is the news that broke about Stephen Smith out there in South Carolina. And then we're going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger. I put out a video. What was it, yesterday? Last night?
Yeah, last night.
Yeah, it was a theory on the prosecution. There was some stuff that was in there. And I've listened to a couple of other podcasts that went on. There was one where Howard Bloom, who was the author, journalist in the Air Mail article that we went and read, he was on a podcast here recently, and he was talking about the things that he knew. And I found one thing that kind of stood out to me. I brought it up in yesterday's video. You and I spoke about it in my garage earlier today. We're going to be going over it with something that we think it's quite possibly a missing link. But first and foremost, the breaking news. So this is reference to Stephen Smith, whose body was found deceased in the middle of the road in 2015, is now being investigated as a homicide. It is no longer investigated as a hit and run. SLED came out with a couple of statements. In fact, I got one of them here. And their statement that they released earlier says, in the interest of accuracy, understanding, and continued mission of seeking justice for the victims of the crimes, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, SLED, is providing the following information. On July 8, 2015, the Hampton County Sheriff's Office requested SLED's crime scene unit to process a passing scene involving a body that was found on Sandy Run Road in Hampton County. SLED crime scene agents were dispatched from SLED's headquarters and responded to the scene. Upon arrival, SLED crime scene agents processed this crime scene. The primary mission of SLED is to provide quality manpower and technical assistance to law enforcement agencies and to conduct investigations. SLED's crime scene unit routinely responds to requests for assistance from local law enforcement and fellow state agencies to process crime scenes across South Carolina. The involvement of SLED's crime scene unit at the scene does not automatically indicate that a SLED investigation. Okay. So on July 8, 2015, SLED crime scene agents attended the autopsy of Stephen N. Smith, where medical examiner Dr. Aaron Priestnell concluded that Mr. Smith passed from being struck by a motor vehicle. Due to the medical examiner's determination, the Hampton County Sheriff's Office requested South Carolina Highway Patrol to investigate Mr. Smith's passing. SLED was not requested by the Hampton County Sheriff's Office or South Carolina Highway Patrol to investigate Mr. Smith's passing in 2015. On June 23, 2021, SLED opened an investigation into the passing of Stephen Smith after SLED agents received information about his passing and subsequently reviewed the SCHP investigative file. From SCHP case notes, it was apparent that SCHP did not believe Mr. Smith's passing was a hit and run by a motor vehicle. SLED's investigation into the passing of Mr. Smith was never closed. It remains a homicide investigation. Process has been made, and SLED's investigation is active and ongoing. Since the beginning of the SLED's investigation, the goal has been to find out how Mr. Smith passed and find the persons responsible for his passing. At the end, SLED Chief Mark Neal has assigned additional SLED Low County regional agents to work this case in hopes of that those who may know what happened are more willing to speak freely now that it's been some time, and honestly now that Alex Murdaugh is in custody. And so they've been investigating this, what it seems like, for a while. It looks like they didn't, I think they were waiting for the Murdaugh trial to end before they really harped in on it to get the manpower. What are your thoughts on this, Big Blue?
Yeah, I was watching one of the reports when they had the mom back on the news. You know, they were letting her know that they were going to exhume the body and they were going to do an investigation. So she seemed she seemed happy. You know, but you know, it's like another thing. She wants she wants justice. She wants the truth out there. So do I. I want to see what actually happened. I mean, well, we talked about it the other day. To me, it sounded like it was not a car accident. So,
Right.
I mean, unless it, like we said, it was a semi truck that hit him, but some of the, you know, his wallet and everything still being in the car, running out of gas. So the story's iffy.
Right. Well, there's been some rumors about some of the things that occurred that night. I'm still trying to clarify what some of those things are, but what has happened was Buster Murdaugh has come forward, right? And he came up with a statement breaking his silence on the situation. Basically stated that he was not involved, has nothing to do with it, and to keep his name out of the news, basically. Not so fast, Buster, right? You know, shortly after that, this news comes out, and in my opinion, I don't think it's a coincidence on the timing, maybe bad timing for Mr. Murdaugh there. You know, but there are some speculations that possibly that whoever committed this crime was playing had a baseball bat and may have caused the injury to Smith with a baseball bat from a vehicle moving. Now, Buster Murdaugh was he was a high school baseball player, and so not pointing fingers or anything like that, just pointing out that that's what he did. Any thoughts to that?
I mean, I want to say, just because you're a baseball player, you're not guilty, but there's a lot of, stories and theories that were going out that, that they were possibly in a relationship. So, and this was to cover up that relationship. So we'll see what truth comes out. I mean, all they have to do is, I guess, try to subpoena information for that type, like maybe cell phone records, because I believe it hasn't been done yet. It was said that his cell phone hasn't been gone through, messages haven't gone unread, so we'll see.
Right, for sure. I think that there's a lot of weirdness that's going on. You had the Murdaughs, Randy Murdaugh and Alex Murdaugh, brought up a lot in this case, and it didn't seem like they, were going out and just getting involved in things unless it benefited them in some way or form or fashion. And so it does feel that could be the case there as far as why they were out there that night. There's a lot of, like I said, rumors out there that this was done by like a baseball bat or perhaps even a golf club from a moving vehicle. I'm not sure if you've ever seen any type of injuries like that, but have you ever witnessed somebody getting hit with a blunt force object to the face? And how much force would be required to make it appear to be a gunshot wound?
I mean, I actually, I've seen somebody get hit with a baseball bat in the face. And it would be a hard blow. Because this one, even though the person saw the bat coming, he was able to pull back a little bit. Still got him in the temple, but they didn't bust a big old hole. But caused a big old knot.
Yeah,
that happens when two drunk people at a softball game get angry. So,
it's just the description that they had, that they thought it was a gunshot wound, that they even went to the extent of doing a GSR, checking for gunshot residue, right? Leads me to believe that it was a significant wound. I find it hard to fathom what could create a wound like that would, what type of weapon would be used here. One that also, the only thing that they have found was that there was like blue flake paint in his, like around his head area where the wound was, and that it wasn't an automobile paint, right? And so they don't know what kind it was, but it was an automobile paint. There is talk of, him acting kind of odd leading up to this, and I was talking about Steven. He was skipping school. He was doing things like that. And there was also conversations of perhaps maybe he was messing around with an older man. We found in articles of a older man that did get interviewed who talked about his relationship, with Steven. Is it possible that maybe it's a different Murdaugh that's a little bit older that was involved in this? What are your thoughts, Blue?
I mean, it could be. He wasn't the uncle also like trying to get into the case for a little bit, but
the uncle was the one that reached out initially, from my understanding.
Yeah. I mean, I think they just got to investigate his phone, see who was talking to last, and it's going to be a hard case because it's been a few years already.
Yeah. Well, they did say that there was something that came out of the investigation of the Murdaughs that I think kind of shed some light on something. It's been a little bit, I thought I read something to that nature. But it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what evidence they have, what people which people are willing to now come forward. Now that Alex Murdaugh has been convicted and he's behind bars. Have you heard any of his phone calls?
No, I saw that the lawyer was upset because they leaked. Sorry, my neighbor's dogs and my dogs are barking at something outside, so I have to keep muting myself.
No, you're fine, buddy.
Yeah, I saw that the lawyer was really upset because they leaked the phone calls, and I did not get to hear him yet. I was reading that report earlier.
Well, there's other phone calls that they've leaked. There's one that they leaked between him and his lawyer, which I understand that, attorney client privileges. But there was other ones that they leaked with him and his son, and it really does sound like he thinks he's getting out sometime soon. I don't know what makes him think that, but he's always talking about like, hey, I'm gonna get a loan for this. We're gonna, he talked about getting loan money or a couple $1,000s, like 5 to 10 grand for Buster to use at a golf course, right? Just for drinks and hang out with his friends. And he said, I'll get a loan out, or you can wait, until I get out. It's up to you. And I'm like, man, this guy thinks he's getting out somehow, some way.
Man, that's crazy. I thought he was like trying to get loans so he can put money on his books, so he can enjoy some of those, jailhouse snacks. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing, dude. He talked about doing wagers with other inmates for snacks and things of that nature already. Yeah. He's an interesting. It's an interesting here, the things that he says. Like you would think that a person who has, a law degree, who practiced law, wouldn't seem so low intelligent wise. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to call the man stupid, but it sounds that way. Like he's like talking to his son. He's like, hey, I think Netflix made something out of this. Do you think people are talking about, like, it's just the dumbest things that he says. And I can't fathom with this guy. And the fact that he thinks he's going to get out anytime soon is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think he'd be out anytime soon. I think maybe he's just living in another world, the privileged world he lived in.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes people like that, they still get certain access to things, and I'm pretty sure they put money in his books for whatever he wants, until the properties get sold and all that other stuff. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I believe that the property already has an offer, and they're already going through that process. I think it's maybe even sold already. Yeah, it moves very quickly, very, very quickly, a lot faster than I thought it would. But moving on to Idaho 4, Bryan Kohberger. So I put out a video last night and referencing my prosecution theory. I would highly recommend going and checking that out. Me, Blue, and Jaime put a lot of thought into what we thought Bryan Kohberger did that night, and we put it together in that episode. It's a part one of a 2-part series. So the first part was the prosecution's case from my understanding of the information that we have, and the second part, which will be aired out, I believe, Sunday morning, is going to be about Bryan Kohberger's likely defense and what defense we probably are expected to see. I'm excited about that, and I'm excited for you guys to check that out. So ring that notification bell if you're subscribed, so that way you get notified of it. If you're not subscribed, get subscribing. What you doing?
Yeah.
We're trying to hit 40K. We're at 35 right now. Help us out.
We'll get there one day. I turned my mic up a little bit, so let me know if it's too loud.
No, you sound good, my man.
And I moved it a little bit closer to me, so just in case.
No, you sound good, buddy. You sound good. Let's pull this up.
And
so here, go ahead.
The video you're releasing is the one we recorded, all three of us, right? On the second one.
No, I'm gonna redo it. So that way it was a little long. So here's what we know when it comes to Bryan Kohberger, right? And we were looking at the evidence. They found out who he was they got their first indication of who Bryan Kohberger was on November 25th. That is when they did the inquiry on WSC registered vehicles, and they got a hit. On November 29th, they go check out the vehicle, right? They pull out the they pull out the guy's information of who's registered to it. Comes back that it's Bryan Kohberger. Comes back with a picture of him and his height and weight, right? And so that's when they started getting an indication of who he was. I think at that point they started to follow him. Now, when you listen to the Howard or you read the Howard Bloom piece on Airmail, they talk there that they didn't, in the article that we read, they talked like they didn't have much, there. There wasn't a lot of evidence, and that it was just the picture of him, right? And then they also talked about that they thought they had a break in the case when they found the vehicle in Oregon. Remember that white Elantra in Oregon?
Yeah.
Everybody was talking about. Here's the thing: that white Elantra in Oregon happened, in the beginning of December, early December, well after they already had Bryan Kohberger's name. So what that leads me to believe is at that time, right? At that time, they knew about Kohberger and he was a suspect, but he wasn't the only or prime suspect at that point of the investigation. What do you think about that, Big Blue? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that they did that for two reasons. If they were following him, they didn't want him to know that he was being, followed as one of the suspects.
Right.
Because then he'll run off. Like, how many murderers jump the country when they get a little bit of suspicion towards them?
Right. But I think I'm not entirely certain when the Oregon vehicle was found, on what day it was found. But I think that was before he took the trip with his dad. Right. This was after they announced that they were looking for the white Elantra. So that was December 7th. They first get notified of Bryan Kohberger owning a white Elantra November 29th. Right. And so that white Elantra that crashed in Oregon was not Kohberger's. If they were watching him at that point, and this is before he fled across, they would have known that it wasn't his. Okay. Right. So at this point of the investigation, after they had already received Bryan Kohberger's name, they still were not aware, or they still weren't completely sold that it was him, because they were still investigating other Elantras, to the point that they thought they had a big break with that white Elantra in Oregon. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm throwing out there. All right. So they follow him. By December 13th, they're back onto him. Right? Now, they don't get the warrant for his let's see, let's pull it up. Right here, until December 23rd is when they got a warrant for the records of Kohberger's phone. So between November 29th to December 23rd, something had to have come up to not only, one, get them looking back at Kohberger a little bit stronger, but two, there had to have been some sort of evidence to pull up this warrant. Right? You can't just go and get somebody's warrant information, right?
Yeah, you have to give the judge a good reason to be able to sign that warrant, to be able to go look.
Right. If we were to look back at, for instance, the Richard Allen case and look at the search warrant for Ronald Logan, right? And they talked about what items that they would think that they would have found. And then they describe why they would have found those items, right? And so they say in there, and a lot of it's redacted, so we can't see, but we can believe that they talk about possibly a knife in that situation as well. You look at the search warrant, and they have things in there about, looking for a knife and all this other stuff, right? Tools of the crime, cameras, things like that. Basically, they needed all that evidence. They also have in there that he had lied about his alibi and that whole 9 yards. And that evidence there was enough for them to get a search warrant for his house and what they were looking for and why. And so they would need a search warrant for his phone, and they would also need to know why. Now, it took them till December 23rd. And we see that right here where it says, on December 23rd, pursuant to a search warrant, I received the records for 8458 phone from AT&T. And they did their analysis. It was after this, on December 27th, when they collected the trash from Kohberger's parents' house that connected him to the DNA. So we know that it was not the DNA evidence that connected him that was the evidence to receive the cell phone pings. It had to have been something else, right? And so I went through all of this, and out here, and this is the arrest warrant for Kohberger. This is the one that was sent out from Pennsylvania. Thank you, Carrie Hall. We appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
And so this talks about Kohberger being the operator of the vehicle, right? It says here, based on information provided on the WSU website, Kohberger is currently a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University. Pursuant to records provided by a member of the interview panel for Pullman Police Department, we learned that Kohberger's past education included undergraduate degrees in psychology and cloud-based forensics. These records also showed Kohberger wrote an essay when he applied for an internship with the Pullman Police Department in the fall of 2022. Kohberger wrote in his essay that he had an interest in assisting rural law enforcement agencies with how to better collect and analyze technological data in public safety operations. Kohberger also posted a Reddit survey, which can be found by an open source internet search. This survey asked for participants to provide information on how to understand emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime, and that is in quotations. As a part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine cellular devices that utilize cellular towers in close proximity to the King Road residence on November 13 between 3 and 5 a.m. And after determining that Kohberger was associated to both the Elantra and the phone, investigators reviewed the search warrants, returns, a query of the phone returns, and this says that it did not show that he was around during that time because his phone was off. But this talks about what got them the search warrant for the cell phone pings. And it was out of the investigation that came looking into the WSU website, his schooling, and the one thing that they bring out, and they have in quotations, is the Reddit survey and an open internet search, that asked participants to provide information, and it had in quotations, to understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. That investigation led to some sort of evidence that tied Kohberger to the scene at 1122 King Road, road, that allowed them to get the warrant. Now, what are your first initial thoughts, Big Blue, on this?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what's got in the warrant, to me, if you're playing on the defense side, that's a little weak to be able to pull a warrant out for his personal information.
Right. I would assume so as well. If just the fact that understanding how emotions and psychological traits, influence decision making when committing a crime, just because he was asking those type of questions, that's not enough to get the warrant either. Not in my opinion. There would have to be some sort of detail that he put in somewhere that ties back to a specific detail back at the crime scene. Whether it's, him possibly telling somebody, if I committed a crime similar to this one, this is what I would do, and cross this, and this off the board. And then when you go look at the crime scene, this, and this is happened there. There's evidence of that. Perhaps all this talk about an informant or confidential source is maybe perhaps somebody that he had a conversation with from that spoke or participated in the survey. Yeah. And maybe perhaps from that conversation, something arose that was enough to get them that warrant. Because I'm finding a hard time based on that investigation of what they outlined, right, that they're going to find much more than that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, it does mention in there about confidential informant. So I think that's a really good theory. That's a possibility of what happened, because Remember, I mean, I watch a lot of shows and watch a lot of true crime stuff.
Right.
For cases to stick, um, they go after those kind of, reasons why warrants were signed and stuff. They have to be strong. So the judge had to have a good feeling for signing off.
Right.
I don't think they would sign off on every single person. There'd be hundreds of investigations. So I think they had a good feeling, good information about that it could have been him.
Right. Right. And yeah, there had to have been something there. And it had to have been some sort of detail, like we mentioned. And I think it has to tie it back to the crime scene. Now, there's been a lot of questions, and a lot of folks are asking, as far as the show last night, why wait so long to gather the DNA evidence? Right? Because they didn't pick it up until the 27th. He had been driving places. They've been watching him. He stopped at a few places. They see him taking trash to the neighbor's house. Why wait so long to get the DNA? What are your thoughts on that? What do you think took him that long?
I think because they probably weren't sure yet that it was his DNA on the sheath, and that's when they finally got it, and they needed something to compare it to. Like that there was an actual viable source on the sheath. Well,
you know what?
Because that takes time.
Howard Bloom, from the article that I mentioned earlier that was on the podcast earlier, I can't remember the lady's name. I apologize. He mentioned that they had sent the sheath for DNA testing to the Moscow, Idaho Police Department forensic lab, and they didn't find anything. And that it ended up being sent down to Texas to a different company that was starting up a new lab that was testing out things. The goal of that lab was supposed to be like to assist with cold case files that have DNA and things that, that weren't able to be tested back then. They can test, I guess, smaller samples or degraded samples or older samples. And that is what developed the DNA profile on the sheath, which for one, I'll say that I think could have some issues holding weight in court, to be honest with you. If that ends up being what ended up happening, that they sent it to Moscow and they couldn't find anything, and they ended up having to send it somewhere else. I think that could be a concern for the prosecution. What do you think on that? Just off the top there.
I think it can, but then that lab that they sent it to, they've broken open a lot of cold cases, and they've found the actual, killers that have done the crime, and sometimes they confess that it was them. So they have I'm pretty sure they have a pretty good record of like what kind of cases they've done. So that also goes by reputation.
Right. And real quick, y'all, we gotta do some housekeeping real fast. Talk about today's our sponsor, which is Data Seal. You can find their information in our description. If you have any concerns about your privacy when it comes to your personal information, your phone number, your address, your religious preference, your political preference, things of that nature of getting it on the web, Data Seal helps you remove those things. If you're interested, check out the link. You get a discount for joining. We'd appreciate it. So anywho, and for the replay guys, the link is also in the comment section. So back to what we were saying. What was your last comment there, Big Blue?
Well, I'm saying that that lab that they sent to, I'm pretty sure they have like a reputation of opening so many cold cases and actually finding enough DNA to convict somebody. So that's probably why they sent it to him.
I think they're brand new, man. I think it's a startup company, is what I heard.
Okay, I haven't read how many cases they've done.
Right.
Yeah.
It's I think it's a lot tougher than people think, this case when it comes to Bryan Kohberger, and you guys are going to see that when you guys check out our theory this Saturday or Sunday. I'm sorry. I think there's going to be some questions that are brought up that are going to possibly bring up some reasonable doubt. And, I think that the one thing that's missing outside of everything that we know leading up to Kohberger's arrest is if they found any DNA in his car, right? If they find DNA in his car, it's done. He's done skis. He's goners. There's no explaining that, right? Now, if we are to believe that Bryan Kohberger committed this crime alone, and we are to believe that the last two people were awake during the commission of the crime, and that he was startled by Dylan and felt that he had to leave at a pretty quick note, right? Like he had to get out of there, go straight to his vehicle and go, because this is a small community. The police department ain't far. They'd be on his trail pretty quick. So I don't think he'd have time to clean himself up prior to entering that car. I think there's got to be something in the car.
I think it's hard, but like he might have been wearing the protective booties and stuff like that, but he might have got something on his shirt, and blood after a while when it dries it flakes,
right?
And when movement and stuff like that, it could possibly be in there.
Right. I remember where we were going. So the question that kept coming up was, why were they waiting to pick up the trash, right? Like they could have picked up Kohberger's trash. Why did they wait till December 27th to get his trash? And one thing that I noticed was that it seemed like they were going down the line, right? They were trying to justify everything that they were saying. I don't think that they need the phone pings necessarily to pick up the guy's trash. You know what I'm saying? But it helps out the case if they do so. It's kind of like the best example I can give is like a DWI, right? If somebody runs a stop sign, does that necessarily mean that they're drunk? Not necessarily. They just ran a stop sign, right? And so now let's put some context behind it. Time of day, location, where they're coming from. You see them exit a bar at 2:00 in the morning, and then they run a stop sign. And there might be a little bit more there, right? And so you have you have your probable cause to justify stopping that vehicle. But if you can do so safely and watch this vehicle, it's recommended if you're going to conduct a stop where you're, you suspect that the operator of the vehicle is under the influence of alcohol, you're going to want to get more than just rolling the stop sign. So you start taping them. You hit them with the rolling of the stop sign. They end up kind of swerve a little bit across the line. That's 2. You can pull them over for it because that's an infraction on its own. But you want to build a justification as to why you're pulling them over for the suspicion of DWI. You get them for a third infraction. They cross over again, boom, light them up. Now, as you walk up, you can ask them right off the bat to step out the vehicle, but that doesn't help your case, right? You need to articulate why you want them to step out the vehicle. So you go up to them, you talk to them, you have several different indications, slurred speech and the smell of an intoxicant, bloodshot eyes, glossy eyes, impaired movement, things like that. And that gives you justification as to now, all right, let's move him out of the vehicle. That's when you ask him to move out and go to the back, or her, whoever, to perform your standardized field sobriety test. Everything has a justification in doing it. Now, each one of them, you can do it on your own, but it doesn't build as strong of a case. So if all you had from the get-go was somebody that blew a stop sign, you pulled him over, and you just arrest him right there because all you do is smell the alcohol, he doesn't blow, you have a very weak case, and he's probably going to get off pretty easily when it comes down to trial. And so because of those things, that's the only reason that I can suspect or justify why they waited till after the phone pings where that warrant was in and they were able to justify picking up his trash. Second is, this is Pennsylvania. It's a different state. I don't know what the laws are there. perhaps if they go pick it up, the trash, they don't have justification at that point, come down to court, maybe their rules and laws are a little bit different, and it gets thrown out. This way, now they can say, we also had this evidence that made us believe this, so it's not just solely on picking it up alone. I hope all that made sense.
Yeah, because I was thinking, well, maybe they had to get a warrant for that state to make it stick. You know what I mean? Because remember, the police said they were investigating somebody, but they weren't going to make any arrests until they got enough evidence for a conviction. So
Right.
They knew it wasn't strong, so they had to watch until they found and got the information that was strong enough to make it stick. So we won't see, June or July or Kohberger, but him walking out a free man because of mistrial or something.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right, man. You don't want somebody walking out based on some kind of, technicality or any of those type of things, which I think that the police department's going to have an uphill climb, especially when it comes to the preservation of the scene. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be a cakewalk. I do think they got the right guy. By all means, there are some things that you can't look past. And, I kind of explained that in the show last night. And this is the way the prosecution is going to want you to look at things. They're going to say that, that the defense is going to want you to believe that everything that happened that night was by coincidence, that Kohberger was out and about during the commission of the crime, that his phone was off during that time. When it was on, he was in Pullman. When it was off, he wasn't there, obviously, but when it turned back on, he was south of Moscow. So he was in the area, so to speak. All right. He had been in that area at least 12 times, right? Based on the historical data from his phone. He had, these are people that he had reached out.
Yeah.
And we're led to believe that also the DNA on the sheath comes back to him. That's all just coincidence, right? And the white car, the whole 9 yards. I strongly believe it is him, but there's a lot of holes that can be put into all those things.
Oh yeah, there is. Now, one thing I was going to say was, how the owners of the property gave it to, I guess they gave it to the city, right? They gave it to the school or something, and they're going to demolish it and do a shrine. Do you think they're going to wait till after the court hearings, or do you think they're going to do it before? Because, like in some murder cases, they have the jury walk, like the houses, the scenes. So if they do that before the trial, then, that might, be a plus to Kohberger's defense. I mean, how can you prove that she can see me if she couldn't see me walk? You don't know the distance walking down the stairs. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's photos and stuff and measurements. They measure everything.
Yeah, but they're going to want them to see the real thing.
Yeah. So
both sides.
I'm wondering, that's why they just bordered it up right now until after the court case, or are they going to do it before? We'll find out.
Lynn Marie asked, what evidence or knowledge led law enforcement to believe this attack was targeted? I have an answer to that that'll be aired out on Sunday's episode. So that is going to be part of that question. And I'll give you a sneak peek. It was probably because who their suspect was at the time.
I'll be back in a second. Let me go get my beer out of the fridge.
Go get that beer out of the fridge, bro. I'll hold down the fort by myself. All right, so what do you guys want to talk about while Blue Go gets his beer? Let's see what questions come in. The warrant for the UPS might uncover a video of his car license plate on their dash camera November 13th. I mean, it's quite possible, but I think that the other thing that they were doing, let's look at that. When was that filed? When was that warrant filed? We have them all right here. And United Parcel Service. Let's look at this. In the matter of the search warrant, all right. This matter came before the court on February 10th. This is to seal it. When did they apply for it? That's to seal it. So this is on the 14th day of December is when they applied for this. This tells me, what is it that they got? Let's look at what they got. They applied for it on the 14th. On the 2nd, actually. On the 2nd, I obtained an amended search warrant for UPS. All right. An inventory of what they received. Delivery truck video. And so, what video did they have on the 5th day of December? Here's the thing, though. It kind of goes back to, and I think this is kind of a reach, because they didn't throw out that they were looking for the white Elantra until December 7th, right? They were already aware of Kohberger November 29th. Yet after December 7th, because we were all aware of the white Elantra, is when they the white Elantra in Oregon becomes a thing. I need to find a date on when that happened. The white Elantra in Oregon become a thing that they thought was key piece of evidence. My opinion is, if this was anything of value, December 5th, let's just say this was a let's just say this was, hold on, Blue, turn down your mic a little bit. You hurt my ear.
All right.
It might just need to get adjusted a little bit. It says if this was on the 5th day, this tells me that they were trying to, maybe perhaps they also had warrants for like Amazon and a bunch of other places. Maybe they had an idea of somebody getting a knife that was similar enough to the one that they felt was used during the commission of the crime. And so they wanted to see that video. My thing is, if this was a delivery truck video that ended up in Bryan Kohberger's hand, or a knife going to Bryan Kohberger, in my opinion, if that ended up being the case, then they wouldn't have been so gung-ho about the white Elantra in Oregon. You get what I'm saying? Because this was before, this is December 5th, before they announced it. And they thought the white Elantra was something. And I've heard that in a couple of different places. The one that was in Oregon. Let me find out when that was. So I'm tired of trying. I know it was after December 7th.
Yeah. I'm trying a different beer today. It's called Native.
What are you drinking, buddy?
Native Texan Pilsner.
Yeah.
And you got a little bit of beer salt. This is also another Texas company, guys. Really good.
Right.
Just put beer salt all over the lip there. Bottoms up. This one's just michelada mix.
Nice. So this white Elantra was December 17th. So at December 17th, this is shoot, man. This was even after they left to Pennsylvania, and they were somewhat following him. Maybe that's why they lost him, because they weren't really following him. You know what I'm saying? Because they weren't that 100% sure it was him at that point. If they thought it was him at that point, I'm sure he was on their radar, definitely on their radar, probably suspect 1 or 2, right? But this tells me, that if they were excited about this vehicle here, unless they still didn't know where Kohberger was December 17th. You get what I'm saying? Because the only way they could have been excited about it. Hold on. I've been wanting to tell y'all for a while now, because every time I watch you remind me of my friend Dave. For 30 years, very much hope you see this. Oh, thank you very much, All Metro. I appreciate that. Either December 17th, when this vehicle was found and speculation started, they had no idea where he was at. Or they weren't sure that he was the guy still.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure they had maybe a few people on their radar.
Oh, I know they had a few people on the radar.
And they had to rule everybody out. So it takes time. So that's why they had. But the good thing is they had so many investigators. They had all this help. Because in other cases, there ain't that much help. They put like 2 guys on the case, and it takes forever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they had like 40 FBI agents and things like that. You're absolutely right. But for me, it just what that points to the UPS stuff is just that they were just trying to find somebody, any kind of information possible. Is it possible that it led to Bryan Kohberger, the UPS video? It's possible. I'm not sold on it. Just on face value there. I think that it had to do something with the investigation. And the reason why I think that is because that's what they have in here. That, we'll pull it up again. As part of this investigation, law enforcement obtained search warrants to determine the cellular devices for the towers in close proximity to the King Road residence, right? And for his 8458 phone. And that was the investigation into his, WSU website, his studies as a criminologist at Washington State University, an interview panel for Pullman Police Department. They learned that he had an undergraduate degree in psychology and cloud-based forensics. So something, they probably contacted DeSales. Something there, maybe perhaps something he wrote in an essay there. Who knows?
Do you think maybe they contacted the school where he was being a teacher assistant, and then he was already spiraling, and they said we're firing him because of his actions, and maybe they got him looking more towards him.
I think that's possible. Aqua Astra asks, it says maybe the UPS video captured Bryan leaving the 1122 house. Again, the thing with that is December 5th, they were on to Bryan Kohberger, right? Because November 29th is when they found his vehicle and they saw his picture, whole 9 yards. Why get excited about the Islandton in Oregon if you have information on Bryan Kohberger and you have him receiving, this, a knife? That alone, or even perhaps leaving the area of the house. Let's just say that's the case. That right there would give you probable cause to get the search warrant for his phone data. You wouldn't have to wait till December 23rd.
Yeah, but
so whatever they found there wasn't strong enough to give them the warrant that they needed. That they got on December 23rd for the phone pings.
I think maybe they got the Amazon information by then. Well, no, it was too early.
No, that
was way too early.
No. The Amazon information that they got. Well, are you talking about his Amazon Fire Stick?
Yeah, when they started digging through the trash.
No. See, this was December 5th was when they applied for the warrant. So they're probably looking at a date earlier, maybe even like they mentioned prior to the incident, right? They're looking at something there. But if there was something there, that would have been enough for them to get the warrant for the phone pings, especially if they saw him in the area. If they saw him in the area, you have his phone, you have the description of the phone. You have his car, the description of his car in the area, and then you have a video of him or his vehicle in the area. That's enough to say that this guy was scoping out the place. Here's the evidence. We have this video. Let's get the phone pings and the historical data on his cell phone. So the fact that it didn't happen there, and then they got excited about a white Elantra a couple of weeks later that had nothing to do with Kohberger, leads me to believe that there's probably not much there.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say they probably, my theory is they probably had him, under investigation. So, and then all these other leads kept coming up, the they had to keep clearing everybody else, and he was put on the back burner for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And because he wasn't, they were still waiting for I bet you they were still waiting for the DNA information. That's like the main thing they got him on. Until after they arrested him, they got some of the rest of the information.
Right.
That's when they would.
I mean, it has to be out of this, man. It says it in this warrant, though. Like, a part is this investigation. Law enforcement obtained the search warrants, so it's part of this investigation, which included the Reddit post. And this is the part that has the quotations sourcing out of something that he did. And it says, understand how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. That means that, to me, the part of the investigation that came up with the evidence for the warrant came out of the Reddit survey and out of something to do with understanding how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when making a crime. Because that wasn't the only thing in that Reddit post.
Yeah.
So it has, to me, just me looking at this is what I see when I see it. To me, it has to do with something about this comment, this question, this survey. Who was he taking? Who took this survey? And is that person somebody who came forward with something, or did they find somebody going through the surveys and during that finding that person said something of value to the point where they got the warrant for the cell phone? Because that's what it was. There has to be something to get the warrant for the phone.
Take a look at this. Nice and frosty. Enchanted Rock. Nice.
Enchanted Rock. The warrant for the UPS warrant date was December 5th. That's why, to me, it's probably not too relevant. Yeah, she said, watch your liver, guys. We're watching it.
Yeah, I get my blood work done every few months, and it's crazy, huh?
I mean, dialysis is crazy. Not just kidding.
Yeah,
you should. If you're on dialysis, you can't be drinking blue.
Dialysis is your kidney, buddy. Dialysis is your kidney, and it is Kidney Awareness Month.
I'm not the medical professional here.
And then I'm mixing this bad boy with frutas frescas. Okay, this is ocean spray. Good stuff for cranberry. I love cranberry mixes.
Mm-hmm.
And, I guess that's why my kidneys look pretty good.
Man. So we have another just a little sneak peek. We have another sponsor for our show, and they sent us an item, and this item had a what's the word I'm looking for? Dry ice, right, to keep the item cool. Oh, what's going on? Thank you so much. Truth and transparency in the house.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So I put my beers in with that dried ice that they sent me. Man, it keeps them really nice and cold, man.
Nice.
Thank you for your $4.99 super chat. If you guys aren't following Lena in Truth and Transparency, you guys need to. We need to do another show together. That, bounce ideas, the whole 9 yards. Be good to get you back on.
Yeah. And the product that we're sponsoring, it was good. That's good.
It was, man. I enjoyed it. I think you guys will like the little commercial we put together for it. Oh, I almost forgot. There's something else I wanted to show you guys before we go. It is the Drunk Turkey Show merchandise officially finally out. The fastest way to get to it, I believe, like on the bottom of our shows, like if you go to one of our episodes, you'll see this link on the bottom. But it's off of Bonfire. Just go Bonfire Turkey Show. We have different shirts, men and women's, hoodies, t-shirts, whole 9 yards. Let's see, like different colors too. So this is your hashtag DTS Drunk Turkey Show. A couple different colors. Then this one has the Drunk Turkey Show logo on the back. That one also has different different colors as well. Let's see, right. Oh, you got yellow, you got red, you got blue, you got green, and then you have like the pullover hoodie, also in some different colors. And so, and a woman's slim fit tee.
Oh, that's my size.
This is the one that Blue ordered. I was trying to get him to get the crop top. We have a crop top somewhere too. Let's see.
It's summertime, so yeah, I gotta get these guns out there, you know.
Oh, so here it is. There's the flow top for the ladies. Got a couple different colors. And so I like the black one. But yeah, check it out. Check it out. Let us know what you guys think. Yeah, Blue needs a white one. Yeah, the white tank top. That yeah, we got to do this again. We got to do this again. But yeah, so back to Kohberger. We have a show, like I said, that's going to come out on Sunday, and it's going to talk about his most likely defense based on the information that we have, based on the evidence, where I think they're going to point some probably blame. You know, the best way, you know, one of the biggest defenses is to point in somebody else's direction. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why. And, you know, I also want to make sure, and that's kind of why we did it in a 2-part series. I wanted to talk first and foremost why we think he's guilty and what the prosecution's case is going to be. And I, for one, think that Kohberger is guilty. I don't think that he's innocent. And I think there's going to be some evidence that comes out of that car. Blue, where do you sit on the side? Like if you had to put your money on one side or the other, guilty or not guilty, Bryan Kohberger, where will your money be on?
From not knowing any of the information that I know.
Well, no, knowing everything that you know.
Knowing everything. I still think he's guilty.
You think he's guilty?
I think he's guilty.
Now, you've had kind of a little bit of a sneak peek of our defense that we're talking, because you were a part of it, obviously. After the defense, do you think there's a possibility that he's not guilty? Or maybe not even not guilty. Do you think there's a possibility that he gets acquitted because of reasonable doubt?
He's got a good, lawyer.
Yeah, that's true.
I think she's good, but not that good. We'll see. I think they got a good case against him. Once we get the rest of the information, you know, and I want to say it's going to be like Murdaugh, man. He's going to take the stand. He's going to want to clear his name, and that to a lot of people does a lot of damage when they clear their name, because they slip up on what they say. They don't show emotions when they're supposed to show emotions. So that does a lot to a jury. So I want to see what when that happens then.
Right. I think he'd be dumb to take the stand. But then again, he's the kind of person that thinks he's smarter than everybody and that he might be able to convince his way out of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But the truth is, if it wasn't him, what can he say? Right? Like, for instance, if it truly wasn't him, and he were to take the stand and they say, you know, what were you doing that night? And he says, I was driving around. Did you go to this house? No. Like, it's not like, I mean, you're going to be able to question him about perhaps, you know, why were you looking at their pictures? Did you talk to them prior to this? You know, everything that's led up. Why were you in the area? How close to the area? He may come back and say, hey, that radius is like 2 miles, and 2 miles from that house is a restaurant that I used to go and eat or drink or whatever the case may be, right? And so I don't know how many questions they're going to find. Now, I think that when it came to Alex Murdaugh, that the only reason that he went up there and talked was because of the Snapchat video that placed him, you know, down at the kennels right before that incident occurred.
Yeah, because he lied until the videos came out. Then he changed the story.
Right. And so he changed his story. He had to justify why he was down there because there was, I think even his own son had just testified that it was his voice. Friends, family members all testified that it was his voice. So he had to come up with a story to tell them why he was lying, in my opinion, at least. And so I think that's where that's the reason why. Now, if there's something that pops up, maybe one of this footage from, one of these ring footage captures a picture of his license plate. Maybe it's not the full plate, but it's partial or something to that nature. Then they might have some questions to ask him why he was there, in that area with his phone off, yada, yada, yada. You know what I mean?
So I'll tell you what, some of those ring cameras, they get good video, man. Especially, like, say, if he did a 3-point turn and if the neighbor's doorbell's pointing right at the driveway, and there's enough light from one of the floodlights that's on or something, you can read the plate. And,
right, definitely.
There wouldn't be no denying that's your car, that's your plate. But remember, he didn't have a front plate, so it's going to make it hard to say it's him if it's the front of the car with a plate. So it would have to be a back plate.
Right.
And the back plates always have the reverse lights that help illuminate the plate at night.
Well, I feel like we know where at least one of those lights are. Here's the question: it's going to be the angle. It's the angle of the camera, right? Like let's look this up real quick. So, at 326, he's seen on 700 block of Indian Hills Drive, right? I feel that this is the house that captures him. All right. I've gone up and down this block, and right there is your camera. Now, this camera is facing this direction, capturing their driveway, right? In case somebody comes in and kind of want to mess around, right? I'm assuming they probably have a doorbell. That's what it looks like to me. So they have two angles. They have one coming this direction and one coming this direction straight up. He doesn't have a front license plate and he's traveling this direction. You're not going to get a picture of it. You're not going to get a picture of that back plate. This way. Now, in front of the house, you're right, doing that 3-point turn.
Yeah.
It's possible.
That's the side camera. A lot of those neighbors might have a doorbell camera. Like I got one of those Ring doorbell cameras, and when I would use it quite a bit, and it would show the car passing, and I could slow it enough to where I could see what kind of car it was. But my house is a little bit different, where mine doesn't get my driveway, so if somebody would turn around my driveway, you can't see it. It gets my neighbor's side because of the way my house is facing.
So this is something completely different, but this is just an example of a Ring cam footage at night in a well-lit area.
That's a pretty sad story about him, man. But
yeah. And so I'm not going to show this entirety but that kind of gives you an idea of what you can see. There's a vehicle out that direction. You can kind of see the clarity of the vehicle. There's a plate, but because of the reflection of the plate. Thank you so much, Queen of the People, with your 149 super sticker. We appreciate you. Thank you for supporting us. We've had a lot of, we've had a couple of folks ask us how to support us. The best way is just hitting the like button. That's all we ask. But if you want to, give us some support, super stickers, super chats, those help out. We also Cash App at Drunk Turkey Show and buymeacoffee.com/Drunk Turkey Show. I think is what it's called. It's all in the links in the description. Check them out. We appreciate it.
And
but
subbing also helps out too, guys. If y'all not a sub, if y'all can, please sub if y'all want. I mean, we have a lot of type of videos we put out. I mean,
yeah. Now this camera is pretty clear, man. I feel like you won't be able to. So at night, you're not going to be able to see inside the vehicle, so you won't be able to see him, right?
Yeah.
If there is a 3-point turn and the back of that vehicle is facing one of these Ring devices, this kind of clarity, and this is of recent, this is November 15, 2022, so only 2 days after the incident. And so this isn't like new technology that wasn't available at the time. And from my understanding, especially the neighbor's house had a brand new Ring camera because earlier that year in September, their vehicle was broken into and clothing was scattered across the floor. And so they ended up getting a Ring camera device. So it's a fairly new one, the one that is very close to the victim's residence. So taking that into some consideration, I would expect that it's probably one of the more recent ones and probably have a similar quality to this Ring camera. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Like mine when I use mine, you can see like I can tell every time my neighbor takes his trash out because he has to walk between their houses and it's facing that way, and I'll pick it up and it'll pick them up for a few minutes, not just like 10 seconds. It does like as long as there's movement, it keeps recording.
Right. No, yeah, you're absolutely right. So that one's a pretty good footage. This one's also Ring. Let me add it. So this is out of New Orleans in the surveillance. So, you know, some of them do it in black and white if there's not sufficient light, but there's still enough here, in my opinion, to tell quite a bit of information. It's a pretty clear picture, right?
That's a Camaro. I mean, I can tell.
That's a Mustang. What are you talking about?
It looks like a Camaro to me.
That's a Mustang. Oh man, fail.
Dang, it's all alcohol right now.
It's the alcohol. Blame it on the alcohol.
I want to say it's a Camaro a little bit, man.
Nah, that's a Mustang, bro. That's a Mustang. That's probably, I can tell it's probably 2015, 2016 Mustang, maybe a 2017. It's a non-GT.
Right. It's the Camaros had a longer front end. They're right. It's
and it's got a little bit more boxy, but back end, not so much of a curved top end. That's Italian style. You can't talk to me about cars, bro. Get out of here. I had a Shelby GT350.
Okay, that's a Ford Escape. Okay, I know Ford Escape.
As you can see, witness testimony isn't always the best. But yeah, you know, you get a pretty good clear picture of what you can see out here. You know, you can identify people, identify the cars. I wish I could see a license plate. But even in this image, the only license plate that's viewable is you can see is from this vehicle right here. It's pretty clear, man. Pretty clear. So
somebody says that theirs freezes constantly. That has to do with your Wi-Fi. You have to get I know. I actually got my whole house Ring set up, and my garage side door would sometimes not pick up. So when I bought one more item from them, I got a Wi-Fi extender, and it picks up now. You know, it reads the door when it opens. So it just has to do with Wi-Fi with those.
Right. It's this is more of a different type of surveillance. I think this is actual surveillance. But you see, if a vehicle is seen driving like that, that's going to be tough to see the license plate. It would have to make a stop because of the blur. These cameras, the frame per second isn't like the best. You know what I'm saying? So if something is moving, it's going to blur pretty quick. All right. So it's going to have to be something that's still, the lights, the headlights make things hard to see as well on these type of cameras. And so I don't know what's going on in these cameras. I just pull them up, you know, trying to figure out an example of what we would see. But I don't think you'd be confused as to what type of vehicle that the person's operating with this type of technology. I think that, you know, seeing somebody in a 2011, a 2015, 16 Elantra is quite possible. Right? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to get in. Oh, yeah, there's somebody getting in trouble right there. Who gets demonetized again? There's somebody about to get in trouble there. I don't know anything about this scene. There's people running now. I'm watching it. All right. Dang, man, but the things that people do, how they get caught. You know what I mean?
It's It's hard because everybody now records their phones, records with their. A lot of houses have Ring cameras. Even if they're not Ring, they got the net. The Google has their own cameras. Everybody's got cameras now.
Yeah, I figured that out towards the end. It wasn't she.
The other night, I swear I was on my lunch break and I was just scrolling through videos, man, and you won't imagine how many, probably hundreds of videos out there that even though, like, it's a lot of surveillance gas station videos where the guys that walk in, rob and shoot up the place, but a lot of them, the gang members themselves record the videos and they used evidence against them.
Yeah,
Everybody
I've seen
wants
that
to
happen.
record, man.
Yeah, dude, I've seen people do that or go live like on Instagram or something near either right after or during the commission of a crime and really, screw themselves.
Yeah.
Let's see this one. Yeah, I mean, you can see quite a bit of detail in these things. It's a clear picture, man. I have a Ring camera, but the one that I have is just for my doorbell.
But here's the thing that other people might not know.
I'm gonna go try to see my license plate tomorrow.
What if they're using other cameras? Like there's the Teslas. Teslas have the side cameras that record throughout the night if somebody walks by them or taps them.
It's Idaho, bro. I don't know how many charging stations you're gonna find in Moscow, Idaho.
Yeah, that's true, but it's a college town. College town, there's a lot of rich kids out there, so there might be some. And also, like, I have a couple friends that have had broken into or been hit by somebody in the parking lot, so they have cameras that pick up motion on their dash. So who knows if maybe one of those neighbors had a camera in their car that picked up the motion of the car passing next to them. And I got a clear picture of a plate.
Like Herges, I hope I said that right. Well, a 35-year veteran of the FBI Vehicle Identification Unit said it was a 2011-2013 Elantra. He said that the one that was seen around the victim's residence was a 2011 to 13 Elantra. The one that they saw in Pullman, Washington, before and after, early morning at 2:44, and then entering back in at 5, was a 2014 to 16 Elantra. And then after that is when they decided, in my opinion, that it could have been a 2015 all along. So take that for what you will with that information. But yeah, well, we're getting pretty close to the end of this. You got any final words before we let everybody go?
Yeah, I just want to say I did see a report today, or probably yesterday. I was reading it. Lance Reddick passed away. It's a really good actor. They say it's natural causes, and I know somebody said earlier, we need to watch our liver. If y'all watch Resident Evil, man, I wonder if it was his liver. I had that thought in my head for a while that he was sick. When he came on the Resident Evil series, his eyes, the white of your eyes when you have liver disease, you get jaundice. They look pretty jaundiced to me, man. I was wondering if he was sick, but he came out in all these other movies. So I said, oh, maybe he's. So isn't that a natural cause? So I mean, it's sad. He was in John Wick. Sequel that just came out. Well, they're not even sure they're going to want to do the next one, but I wonder if that was his natural causes, like his liver giving out, because his eyes were pretty.
Oh yeah,
Bosch is one of my favorite shows. If anybody hasn't seen it, it's on Prime, and he was in there also.
Yeah, man, it's always sad when you hear news of somebody passing that you've grown up watching. Yeah, it very much is. Rest in peace to him, and our thoughts and prayers to his family. But with that being said, guys, we're going to put a bow on this one. We always end it the way we always end it. And we tell you to not drink. We don't want you listening to drunks. We'll see you in a couple of days. Peace out, y'all.